So the first one we're going to start with is the stress path. And the stress path, really, all it is when threes are under stress, they move to the 9, and they're really just pulling attributes, either average to unhealthy, of characteristics of a type 9. So let's jump into the stress path and some descriptions to know that you are there. And this is how a type 3 knows they're in stress, because this is the way they think, feel, and behave while under stress. The first one is they suddenly shut down, becoming disengaged, apathetic, and passive. So think like a gas station. You go to a gas station and you're filling up your tank to fill up the car to get going. However, for the type 3, they are on empty at this point. They've been pushing their car far too long, and now they don't even have the energy to get to the gas station. The tank's on empty, the fumes are all gone, and they're ready to give up. For type 3s, they really need to learn that when they forget why they're striving, they lose their motivation. God's invitation isn't to push harder, but to find rest in their purpose, not performance. And the Bible verse I have for them is in Ecclesiastes 2:11. It says, "But as I look at everything I've worked so hard to accomplish, it was all meaningless." And this is a reminder when threes are feeling that, they've realized that they've been striving out of their own hard work, their own will. I'm doing it on my own. And now they get to the point where everything seems meaningless. And that's a good invitation for them to remember, I need to start inviting God more into my decisions, my emotions, because if you do it on your own, you will end up your tank empty. The next description is remain busy to avoid looking lazy, even if they're not able to focus. The analogy I have for this to kind of think about it more is, I feel like a quarterback is running plays without checking the scoreboard. They're just burning energy, running plays. They're losing sight about the goal. And the goal is for a quarterback is to make sure you put points on the board and to win. And another one is like a CEO filling out paperwork just to look busy, staying active while the company drifts off mission. They don't know what's going on in the rest of their company. They're just looking like they're busy while the company is losing their vision, their focus, and eventually they end up in a place and they're like, I didn't know how we got here. And the point here is that God really, for the type 3, God doesn't reward busyness. They have to convince themselves, I gotta look busy, because they're trying to be admired, they're trying to get love. What God really wants us to have is He desires His presence over productivity. To make sure that whatever you do, God is involved and not just you trying to do it on your own. And Psalms 127 verse 2 says, "It is useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working." And I want to pause right here. When threes realize that that's what they're doing, anxiously just working, looking busy. And the verse continues, "For God gives rest to those His loved ones." And so when you feel anxious, when you're working, to remember to come back to God, because He's the one that's going to give you rest. And rest isn't laziness. But that's a lie. You tell yourself, I got to be productive. I got to keep going. But all you're doing is you're doing it on your own, and you're ending in a place of stress. And not only that, but you're ending farther and farther away from God, and He's inviting you back in for rest. There's a theme here. That you withdraw and become depressed, losing interest in accomplishing. Think like a star player who's built their whole life on winning, only to suffer an injury that takes them off the field, leaving them unsure who they are without the applause. And so if you've heard stories of athletes, they made their whole identity on sports, they get an injury, and the next thing you know, they're sitting there going, I don't know what to do with my life. This was my life. And this is where they become depressed. They lose their purpose. And so the point here, when threes are here, they need to remember your worth is not in what you do, but it's who you are in Christ. And if you know you are in Christ, you will always have a purpose. And that's an invitation to keep inviting God back into your life when you feel like you don't have a purpose, you start getting depressed, and you start losing that ambition you normally have because you ended up doing it on your own and you ended up here. The next description is want to be left alone and not bothered. And so think like a sales rep who's missed their quota for months. They stop checking their emails, avoid the teams, and hide in shame, hoping silence will hurt less than the exposure of failure. And for the type 3, productivity equals their identity. So when a type 3 momentum dies, the silence gets louder. The desire to withdraw isn't laziness, it's grief. Grief over not being enough. And so when a type 3 realizes that they want to be alone and not bothered, you have to recognize, is this solitude where I'm seeking God, or am I hiding because I'm feeling I'm not worthy enough, I have shame, I'm a failure? Those are signs that you're far away from God and you need to turn yourself around to Him. The next one is they numb out by watching TV, playing video games, shopping, overeating, etc., etc. Can go on and on. This is when addictions will come in. Think about someone binge watching shows to escape their own life, someone jumping into a video games because their real life they're not exceeding, so they need to get those fake points in a digital world. Or they're going shopping to numb out their pain, to feel like, at least I got something new to look, so I can at least look a certain way. Because the whole goal is they just don't want to look like a failure. Threes need to understand that type 3s often believe that love is earned through success. So when their efforts fall flat, when the applause fades away, they chase quick hits of reward or distraction through TV, food, and shopping. It's not about indulgences. It's about numbing the ache of, I wasn't enough. But the truth is, your heart doesn't need another storyline. It needs to return to God's story where you were already chosen, seen, already loved before you ever lifted a finger. And the final description for the type 3 is they stubbornly resist help from others or even hearing that you need help. See, pride will always block your healing, thinking that I can just do it on my own. I've always done it. I move faster than everyone. Everyone just slows me down. Now you come to a place where you've burnt yourself out. And this is why community is part of God's design, to be whole. And you need to remind yourself this phrase, if I want to go fast, I need to go alone, but if I want to go far, I need to go together. And so Proverbs chapter 12, verses 15 says, fools think their own way is right, but the wise listens to others. Remind yourself sometimes when you're in the grind, it's always good to get outside opinions, especially people that say, hey, I think you need some rest because you're about to burn out. And usually that's a sign I need to get connected with God and my community so I can refresh myself and get back to what I always know. So here are some signs to what it might feel like for a type 3 to be under stress. I don't even recognize myself right now. I'm tired, but I don't know how to stop. If I'm not performing, am I still valuable? No one sees me unless I'm succeeding. If I stop, I'll disappoint everyone. If you have ever told yourself, that's a good sign, I'm stressing out and I need to turn back to God. Again, this is the theme. You need to move from striving to abiding. When type 3s enter the stress path, they lose connection with purpose and begin to question their identity. What once energized them now exhausts them. This is the place where tag 3 runs out of gas, and now they get out of the car and start pushing it until they fully exhausted. If you remember the example up from above. And the purpose is, you don't have to, when you get to that point too, you don't have to push that car by yourself. It's okay to make a phone call and realize you need help getting that car to the gas station. And it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're human. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If this video helped you, be sure to like and subscribe for more faith-based Enneagram content. And if you're ready to grow, grab your free guide. It's in the link in the description. Let's keep growing together.